Karen,
I'm
take it from here.
take it from here. Well, welcome everybody, our international family here who've come to join us. I'm here just to introduce Alana James, who you may have known obviously before. I have known Alana, I think we've worked out some 5 years now. We've been on this artistic journey since she was doing her what pieces were you doing originally? I've forgotten now. The circle.
Moments in time.
Yeah, the moments in time pieces. So this is when we first met, and it was how can this digital art, which at that point especially people were looking down upon as if it wasn't really art. And it was like, well, no, because digital is art because it's still coming from that conception. There's still those elements of creation that you have to do. In fact, the programs you've had to learn to do this would probably equal people's learning of drawing time. And I know that you're an exceptional artist, which is why one of the pieces you included in the exhibition was a drawing. To one, show people that this isn't some kind of, I'm just doing digital because I can't do art. And this is what I think Alana's been really kind of pushing for throughout these times, to the moment in time. And then the elements then that moved on until the portraits. So I think some of you have probably seen her large portraits, which was celebrating people and celebrating people over 75, wasn't it? Which is a real key time for, I think, of a lot of people that have just become someone's mother, someone's grandmother, someone's grandfather, and they kind of almost, their memories don't become part of that essential daily conversation. And to celebrate everything
Mm.
about them and also asking them, what memories do you have? What are the core things in your life? As opposed to people subscribing, this is what so and so did. And that was such an important project, and the scale of it as well, like the physical scale of the pieces was just phenomenal. It was putting someone forefront, the size that we have when you go to an exhibition at a museum and you see the kings and the queens and the conquerors. Let's do it at that scale as opposed to here's a small portrait of somebody. Now, what we've now moved on to is the now what matters pieces. So, Lana, do you want to give us like just a bit of
Sure.
a quick insight into how this has evolved and why this became?
I will. And let me just turn around and show the evolution. So if I click here, then I get this and off we go. Okay. So this is the piece that Karen started talking about. This is the drawing. And I showed it for two reasons. And kind of the underlying reason, as she said, was some people might think I do digital because I can't draw. So this was me saying, by the way, I can draw. But this was done in 1979. And I'm the little girl on the stage. I'll come a little closer. And that's my mother. And the thing here is that um, these are all stories about our family. This is California. And this work has the same visual images as that I've been using all along, and I wasn't even aware that they are. So now I'm walking us into the back room of this gallery, and you see the life-size full portraits. And then as you get closer and closer, you see the kind of detail that I can do in digital work. And I just want to point out for the people who know me, this is the only one I'm in. You'll see that middle moment in time is I'm hanging out with this woman who's now 80. And that's when the Zappa quilt came into being. So she was at that original owning. So here's one person who felt like she was never belonged on this planet
Mm.
versus or with a right side along with Nora, whose family own a half a dozen farms in one part of Cork, and they're very much part of this earth and very instrumental the county where I live in that particular time. Then we would have people who travel. So this woman was born in Tibet. You can see the pictures off to the right. And when her family is important, but also her books and her horses. So at the bottom, you see she's framed by her event horses. Um, this woman had a pretty tragic early childhood that, and things didn't get much better. And the men, especially in her life, weren't particularly good. And she just kept going and going and going until she got her degree. And I believe that she has, this long and dark road has set her grandchildren up for success.
Wow.
Here we have a woman who was on stage all of her life, but her husband wasn't well at times, so she was raising her family at home and then being gone for 6 months when she was on the London stage, and then coming back and being on home. So hers is the story of family at home and also the family that was her work life.
Mm. It's very much if you're on the theatre, it becomes your family, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Well, and that's
Yeah.
what she said. And you said something very important, Karen. You intimated that people in this age group are not known for who they are. They're known for the role they live. So
Yeah.
many of their daily interactions are with family. And you can't, it's very hard to get past being the mother,
Yeah.
being the grandmother. And yet, when I have conversations with them, they are the people who traveled, who were on the stage, who did all these things.
Which is,
And
yeah.
so these pieces I love. I do. I just love them all. I love their size. I love their complexity, many things. What I didn't love about them after a year and a half was that while they tell the story and while they're interesting, they didn't convey the feelings I had about those people. They did everything else. So
Mhm.
that threw me. And then I'm just going to make it easier for this. I'm just going to tick this so you can look at me as I'm walking down the stairs rather than
Be careful.
rather than going zoom, zoom, zoom. I'm going around the world.
Well, when you're going downstairs, can I just ask for you, because obviously your work from very early age has been about
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
stories and
Yes.
about family stories. What would be one of your first kind of links, do you think, to stories being important?
Oh, well, gee. So that takes me back to this drawing. I think I think I'm very curious and I see something and I think my next natural idea is, well, how does this relate to that other?
Yeah.
And then so in order to put together all the relationships and the different thoughts, you have there's a story there. There has to be some linkage, and those linkages are frequently called stories. And when I interview, I'm a researcher too. So when I these portraits start with usually a pretty day-long interview. When I'm meeting somebody for the first time and I'm taking their full-length picture, and then we're beginning to talk about their lives and go through their pictures and that kind of thing. And um, so I have all these boop, 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 different connections, different connections. And then over the course of it, and often because of the feelings of it, it comes together to be something. And that we call that something a story, but we could
Yeah.
just as well call it anything else.
It's kind of the transference of facts to another person in a more palatable manner.
Yeah, and I think though what makes it a story rather than evidence, because as a
Mhm.
researcher, of course, I play with
Yeah.
evidence, but what makes the difference is the heart of it. The reason they pulled out those pieces of evidence. And
Yeah.
that was the key thing that made it then important to me to figure out this very big question, which is how do you get feelings in artwork?
Yeah.
So that took me to,
Do you find at all, perhaps because the each of the individual stories or that kind of anecdotal evidence was created within a bubble, meant
right.
that when you were viewing it, you have to view each bubble as a slight thing as opposed to it being an all story? Because I know at the point that it was important to have each of the bubbles because it was so the person could clearly see the story.
Yes. And
And
then
now you've
now
removed
it
the
became
bubble.
as soon as I got to feelings,
Yeah.
Those bubbles had to go.
Yeah. You pop the bubbles. This is
That's
bubble
right.
interior.
Yeah. But so then I had to figure out how do feelings show up? And so I have to tell a little bit about how this is done. The the first work is done with photographs and then using Procreate on an iPad to cut and paste in a very similar way to when I did collage. These new ones are done in conversation with AI. So so AI and I use a lot of words. That's my relationship with AI, a lot of conversation. So I start off going towards, you start with a few words, but say I'm going to start with a Vedic mantra. So I'm not even exactly sure what it means, but I know it ends up having something to do with internal happiness. And I'm doing a portrait of somebody who's internally happy. Okay, so I can go that far. So I go to Vedic mantras, and then AI and I have a lot of conversations about what they are, what they mean, how they were historically, et cetera. And then I say, okay, now tell me like 10 different authors who wrote about these topics from different backgrounds, from different whatever, blowing open the spiritual aspect of it all and contemplative aspect. And then when you do that, when you read that many words, you come to a place where a few stand out, like your heart says, oh, that's important, that's important. And I capture those, and then I say to AI, all right, let's talk about abstract form and how these particular words may evolve into an abstract form. And it gives me colors and lines and spaces and words and da da da. And I imagine what it might come out like. It has given me, and I curate that. I say, yeah, but I don't really see red in this or whatever it is. So I come to a final, pretty detailed, generative script, and then I tell it to generate. And then it may come out looking like something I hadn't even imagined at all, or it may come pretty close to my imagination. That's not important at that point. But then may have more conversations with it about how I would want that generative image to improve. And sometimes I end up just arguing with it and trashing the whole day's work. But then I would have done that on a painting too. I would have argued with the painting all day long and then painted white over it later. So the
Yeah.
actual interior work, even though I'm not physically drawing the circles anymore, is very similar to when I was drawing and painting. And these that I've been flashing in front of people are what I did then is I had well over 100, and I live in a studio that has 5 different screens. So these pop up as I'm doing other work, and I live with them. And some speak to me over time more than others. So I've curated the ones that really work, that hit the top for different reasons, that I can look at and imagine that I keep coming back to it, imagining more, or like the 3 that you're looking at right now. None of the 3 particularly do it for me, but the way they move together does. And
Yeah.
so that then took me, being a digital artist, it can come out of my computer any size, any shape. It can be on a building, it can be on a wall, it can become part of a video. And then that's what some of these do, is they become part of videos. And this one's one of my favorites, the one that's showing up right now. These are done. There's an artist in UCLA who does the big building kinds of work, and he puts a lot of data into the computers. He's from Turkey, and he found a big database and he fed it all in, and then AI built the images. And I thought, well, that's an interesting idea. And so Margie and I went through our pictures of each other and ourselves over the 25 years, 30 years we've been together. And I fed those into the computer and I had AI read those images, and then we sorted them into stops. And this has now gone back to the originals. So there's a section of these I find very interesting. I find this whole idea about the metadata in our pictures very interesting. And as I'm traveling, I'll be in China next month. And as I'm traveling, I'm going to do a What Matters to the Chinese. And I'm going to be playing with this image and metadata kind of feeling. So who knows what this dance between AI and my artwork is going to do over time. But I know it has abstracts in it. And then I'll just keep going for a second if I can. Just to say that this also has these two on the wall are printed, but I don't print my work until somebody's going to buy it. So then that person can have it any shape they want, can have it any size. You know, we can work together on the specifics. That's not the important thing. And they get the quality work signed, certificate of authenticity, all of that kind of good, it's one of a kind stuff, which I think is appropriate in the art world. But I don't have to print and have a room full of canvases that may or may not sell over the rest of my lifetime, which just feels like freedom to me because so many artists are burdened by their old work. Okay, so then we go to this one. I have two where I have taken the abstract work. I'll stand up. Takes me a second, so excuse the bump. Okay, here we go. So these people are the most loving couple I've ever known in my life. And I was able to redo theirs with an abstract behind it, which really began to carry the essence of what they were about. And then the ultimate story here, again, excuse the fact it's going to flip on you around the gallery. This is Dr. Gladys McCary.
Beautiful.
She died at 103. The pictures in the middle, and I'll kind of come up and show you. Here she is with she was a doctor, a medical doctor. She worked all over the world. She was obviously full of spunk with the bicycle. She wrote books. She was on television. She has quite a legacy after her death. There's a foundation, and her work continues. Her belief, and this gets us into the last part of what matters. Her belief was that her work mattered. At 70, her husband came in and said, "Here, sign this. I've been carrying it for 6 months." And it was divorce papers. So she had the wherewithal and the belief system that her work was the important thing. And this entire picture is her after that time. So the last 33 years of her life, she built the biggest legacy of her life. And that was after taking what most people would consider to be a pretty sizable hit.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. So, okay, back to you. Let me switch this around. Have more conversation with me now.
So are you considering revisiting the family portraits in order to add this to this?
I
Or
have a couple. I redid Elizabeth Ann, the one that has me and with the Zappa quilt. I haven't printed it. Yes. So the short answer is yes, absolutely. I have them all in file folders on my desktop, and I pretty frequently go through them in my head and wonder if I found just the right one to go behind. And I'm also, as a result of this show, I've got at least 3 or 4 people who walked out with my business card who may be coming back to me to be the next round of portraits. And if that's the case, then they'll take it. So I don't know. The short answer is after I speak a long time, like very much like me, the answer is that there is something here. I'm following a thread of,
Yeah.
yep, this is important. This, I love the abstracts. I will continue to do and sell and have the abstracts because in their own right, I've had many people stand in front of them at the gallery just oohing and awing, and they clearly meant something to them. And and for me to get to the right place with the abstracts, I
Mm.
need to keep feeling how that goes back and forth with what it's like to be human.
So can you kind of pinpoint the moment when you suddenly you kind of realize you went, I've got something here.
Oh,
Or,
God.
when it starts bringing everything, because obviously you've been through the drawing, the collage, all the different bits and pieces through your life, the research, the evidence side, the battle between the creative and the structural. The when I first met you, you're still plugging away at a zillion spreadsheets. Is there a moment when you went, do you know what? All of these passages of storytelling and creativity and research and everything, hang on a minute, that's starting to make sense that this is going to be my life's work.
Yeah.
Or is
It's
that
been
just kind of coming
evolving.
now?
Not, it wasn't a moment, but there's several moments. It's been seriously evolving over this year. So I had about a year, I had 2 years after 70, kind of putting together the how's this going to work kind of stuff. And then by the time 2025 started, I was on a track and I was writing grants for art support, didn't get any of them. But one of the grants I wrote suggested that I was going to do this show. And I wouldn't have had the guts, really. My friends own this gallery. And I wouldn't have reached out and said, oh, I really want to just take over your gallery for 2 weeks, please. Um, except that I needed the support, I thought, for the grant. Would they please say yes, and would they write a letter so the grant would have that letter of support? Well, the grant didn't come through, but they don't keep the gallery open in the middle of the winter. It's too many hours for too few foot traffic. So, and it's cold. Ireland's cold. It's dead all day long. So they were fine and very supportive, and they love me. So I was able to do this, and they gave me a gallery space. How wonderful is that? Um, and then and then that made I had to do it. And through the having to do it, you came into it. The VAA came into it. So for everybody who doesn't know, I'm a VAA member, and they're an organization based in the UK that helps artists figure all this stuff out. Um, and and I was shortlisted for one of the things they were doing, and part of it was a course that Karen taught that held my feet to the fire of the things like the database that everybody got the emails on, and the catalog that shows all the work and all these things, and that holding my feet to those fires was very good too. And then, so now you've got it kind of 2/3 done, and you've got to put a show, and you've got to have a title, and you've got to figure out how these three very diverse things go together in a way that anybody else can support. And that became an artistic exploration of the puzzles of life
Yeah.
and relationship feelings and the power of belief. And as you'll see, and you may see around, there are puzzle pieces. And the puzzle pieces are what people have said, these people who had their portraits done, and also just some things to kind of point out the reason for the show. So a year, Karen, not a moment, not an aha moment, but an
Well,
aha
I
year.
mean, who defines what a moment is? A moment could be it could be a year, just because we say just I know somebody if you say just a moment could turn up in 2 years. Believe me, we've all got that friend whose time is linked to the Bermuda Triangle. So we've had the conversations before, obviously, about kind of spirituality, a belief, what it means to be human, what our kind of role in it is. So your next step, kind of trying to understand what humanity is and creating that abstract and that sense of feeling. What steps do you think you're going to be
Well,
exploring with that? And does China come into that?
I actually see two things that I'll do this year. One is I'm going to explore what matters around the world
Yeah.
because I have a busy travel schedule, and I'm going to see. what I can do. In two cases, I'm traveling with people and I can have conversations. And one of them, I've asked the Chinese family that I'm traveling with, would maybe her mother like to have a portrait? And I have a very good friend in Spain, and her mother seems quite spectacular as well. So I'm going to try to twist some arms and get some what matters in these countries, but through personal relationships.
It would be really interesting to see one element of that is that because you are not from their culture or from their family, whether they'll start to put in cultural imagery to make you feel better, or whether they will stick to personally how they feel and how they relate.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
And in both of those cases, I have the son and daughter there, and it'll be interesting. Do we tell all of our stories when the son and daughter are in the
no,
room?
this is it. I mean, the thing is, because you're using online, there could be a chance that you have some questions primed in their language and just record it so they can naturally speak in their language, and then you translate it.
Oh, see, you're very good at this. You're
Because often
very
when
good
you've
at
got,
this.
I find that I prefer to interview rather than doing on camera. So I do a lot of audio work, and the reason for me is I think audio people give their honesty more
Yeah,
freely because
because
they're
they're
looking
looking
at,
at you, not the
yeah,
camera.
and they haven't got that barrier of, oh, how am I coming across? What's going on? What does that look? It comes from the heart like a stream of consciousness. So it might be quite interesting within that to just have a little card that says, I'd like you to tell a story that perhaps you haven't told your family
Oh,
in your natural language and see what comes out of it. I just
oh,
don't know.
that's
You're curious like me. I want to be there now.
okay. So yeah, that's one thing. The other thing has to do again with you. So for people who don't know, Karen and I started what we have called originally a spiritual art collective, and what we were looking at was that many artists use the word spiritual with their work, but their work is vastly different,
Or
and
don't use the word spiritual.
and it's not religious, it's not the icons of the past, but what's happening now. So we have a group, we love these people, we WhatsApp with them regularly, and I've begun to think that we should expand it to contemplative and spiritual, because there's something kind of in there. And this year I'm going to put in the work, if the group is behind me on this, and I think they will be, that we'll get an online show together.
I
Uh,
think we started because the word spiritual had just been hijacked.
right.
And when you say the word spiritual, immediately people's kind of shelters go, like barriers go up and go, yeah. Or people start to go, no, you don't understand what spiritual is. You go, yeah, it's this. And it's just that contemplative, what is that feeling when you can create or do something, but you can't quantify or exactly say what it is. So we all just defaulted to spiritual,
Yeah.
or everyone avoided it, didn't they? But yeah, I think we need a little subtext. We got Karen's here
So,
as well, who's
so
part of
those, yeah, hi Karen. So
it.
those two things go together, right? The one is where the abstracts tend to go. The other is where the people tend to go. I'll be traveling, so I'll get a lot of the pictures, and I'll continue to play with AI. So really, all three of the sections of this "What Matters" idea, yeah, I'm going to push them. We'll see what the year is like. I'm
Yeah.
thinking I'll come back. I'll try to come back to exhibiting like every 2 years. Takes about 2 years to pull off enough new work to
And
make it worthwhile.
what I find really interesting with this is you're exploring the innate sense of humanity, which is through oral tradition, through storytelling, through the concept of memories and through feeling, but yet doing it with AI that we're told is going to take our humanity, and through digital, which is told that it's taking our touch, but showing that we can integrate together and understand each other, and sometimes one can prompt something out of the other and vice versa. So we could cohabit in a way that comes out of beauty, and perhaps we should work together.
That's exactly what the show was open. The opening of the show was started by Alan Coleman, who's one of our counselors, our elected officials, and also the art council head for Cork County. And the two men both, I think they were taken with the electronic aspect of it and the people. The whole thing, there's a little bit of cognitive dissonance there. that looks like, wait a second, how does all this go together? And I love that.
Well, yeah, so this is well, that's your internal challenge that you're having, which is what a lot of the curious do, which is I don't put all my eggs in one basket. What about the other? And they pull between. And a lot of your messaging is all about that. As we said, people of a certain age not being included in things. And then suddenly, whoa, they did have a life to create that little sense of upset and dissonance that, wakes the other people up a bit.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we all know there's a few people in the world now that could do with a bit of a wake up.
So one last thing, because I don't want to take us over our half hour for the people who joined us, but although we'll keep it open for questions, of course, but the one thing I want to say from really the bottom of my heart is that consistently this show, people have left and they've used the word inspired.
Brilliant.
The stories and the people have been inspiring. And you know what? That's been like the heart of my life as a
Yeah.
teacher and as everything else, is to keep that inspiration going. So it's right when you get that feedback that makes you want to cry.
But also, if you've just woken up something within someone to ask a bit more or shift their viewpoint or consider themselves in a different manner or a different light, that shift can seem so small, but it's seismic change.
Yeah. Or their parents. If they come in and they're younger, then I really hope they take these parents
Yeah.
seriously, right?
Yeah.
Go home and ask questions and that kind of thing. So thank you.